Hello, everyone. My name is Emmanuel Bakare, and today I'll be taking you to a talk for the Open Source Festival. Um, and it's going to be around something a bit unconventional, right? Which I titled Day in the Life, Becoming a Smarter Engineer and a Better One. The premise for this talk is actually based along the paths of soft skills, but mostly in terms of accelerated career growth and less on actual full-time competence, which I think a lot of us tend to put so much insistence on getting, as opposed to some of the other blockers that if we actually built up would, have much more, enhanced growth. The title for this song was actually, inspired by Central C, Day in the Life. It's actually a really great song. And likewise, there is, some title image there, Achieving Greatness, Central C. So who am I? Title just says, just the bare minimum, Emmanuel Bakare, but I do systems work at AWS. And over the past couple of years, I've built up, a profile around, accelerated growth, pushing for the best, and always optimizing for maximum, performance in any role that I do choose to work in. Now, why this talk, as I've explained before, we spend a lot of hours, trying to work out problems with our career growth, but the issue might just be your approach. So I offer details on getting past that really quickly. The first thing that I would really speak on in this aspect is introspection, which I've also titled Know Thyself. A lot of us really do spend quite some time working through roles, rather than actually getting to know ourselves a lot, because that actually then defines what kind of career path you're really good in. If you are really disagreeable and articulate, you might be a very good lawyer, right? If you're very, conscientious and you know your way around, optimizing, the kind of skill sets that work around for coding, you might actually be a very good engineering manager, right? You might be a great software engineer if you're really great with people skills. Things like that. Like, they all kind of mix and match, but the only way to actually get there is to know yourself and kind of like push ahead. One of the key ways to know yourselves is to actually take personality tests. At least that's the key data metric point to use to identify various other things. And then from there, you can build up, like the start blocks of like, who you are and how to actually, lay much more, impressive footprints on, your understanding of yourself and your limitations and also your, key strong points. The next part of this is leverage. Leverage is something that I think a lot of us tend to, misalign with competence. And leverage really is about you having the upper hand, having some, some key resource that other people just can't get. Leverage is what gets you in the door. Competence is what, keeps you in there, right? So like a lot of people are actually queuing up to get to the door. You do not need that if you have a free pass. That is the idea of leverage. Before like a certain time, we would spend hours, applying to big companies, but really what we just needed was probably to reach out to the recruiter. You could spend like, 10 minutes doing that. And that in itself is leverage on its own, right? The access to that particular resource that puts you one step ahead of everyone else. And it is more than critical to any growth. Once you can identify your key persona from introspection and you can use leverage to then build on top of that, then you just gain a step ahead. You don't particularly need to think much further about how to apply your competence in such a manner. And there's a particular key one that I always talk about, which is a consistency matrix. So as opposed to like normal ideas of like, oh, like, stay focused on one thing and do that one thing. Well, in real life, it doesn't actually scale as great as one might imagine. Because life is not a single path journey. Like if it were that simple, we would all just focus on one thing and live life fine. But everyone is doing that same one thing and trying to excel at it perfectly. There are people, who are granted, gifts of, extreme intelligence, aided, growth in life, early on, inspirations and aid, so they kind of move ahead faster. But to now match up, you kind of like have to build up this matrix of things that you do consistently, each aligning them to that, idea that you built up from introspection about what you actually, see yourself doing and the things that you're great at. A prime example I like noting here is something like just going to the gym, right? You build up a lot of mental endurance going to the gym. It's a very time-tasking activity, mentally tasking too, physically tasking. Just going to the gym itself, puts you maybe 2-3 hours ahead because like you have, much attuned and trained, endurance for like long day tasks. if you stop going to the gym, you have a lot of time, and you also, have built up like, that mental endurance to just keep going. Key metrics like these, from just like building up that consistency matrix. The gym is just one of them. You could also build up, that time studying, that time to do this or that. The habits that you actually then build up from then actually then become the key, career growth points that you can then use to accelerate yourself. Everyone likes someone who is spontaneous and able to, apply themselves in different ways. It is not ideal to just focus on one path. Impact first. And this one is another part where I think like a lot of people that I've spoken with have misaligned. Like it's one thing to work, but then you also have to be crucially, applicable where you work and how you work, because that really saves you a lot of time. Like time is precious. We don't have to waste it. If you focus more on things that actually bring out impact or give you like, that name and focus that you're trying to achieve in your career, you not only just save a lot of time, but you actually then drive that, idea that you are actually someone who can deliver on things that are much bigger. People are always looking for the high achievers. Like no one settles for less in relationships, in life, in work also. So why then settle for less in the work that you do when you can, aim for, the best and actually be known to do the best, which then drives the final part to identify presence. Be the, key stakeholder in driving your own idea of who you actually want to be and who people should know you as. You should be the go-to guy for your problems or for most other people's problems, right? You should be the person that they say, oh yeah, this is the person I know can do this. And after building up all the other parts of introspection, understanding leverage, optimizing for impact, and then also pushing massive skill development through like, building up consistencies in different habits, you then finally arrive at this point where you now become the person that people are looking for. And majorly, this is the part that we all try to then end up as, that one go-to person that we can now say, okay, yes, opportunities in life all just kind of stream by. And most of the time, the kind of people we're looking to wish for maybe follow just these key metrics. And as that would go, this has been the talk. If there are any questions, you can definitely reach out and via email or Twitter, which will be attached to this talk. Thank you.